Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining today. Today, we're going to be talking about walkthroughs. What are they? Who is going to them? What's their purpose? And how do you do them? So what we're going to talk about is a part of the transaction that is mentioned in the purchase agreement. So it is a contractual part of the transaction, but it can vary from office to office. It is not something that has a form, a standard form associated with it. It is for the protection of all parties, but I want you to be careful with paperwork you may fill out in regards to the walkthrough and who you provide that to. So we're just going to get started and I'm going to walk you all the way through the process. So when you have a buyer purchasing a home, so we're only going to be wearing our buyer's agent hat, okay? If you're the seller, there is not a walkthrough. So the buyer has the right to a walkthrough. And in our actual contract, section 15 is where we discuss whether or not the contract is contingent upon inspections or not. 15A is if the contract is contingent upon inspections, but 15B is one we almost never used until this market. And 15B is if the contract is not contingent upon inspections, and there is no inspection addendum attached to the purchase agreement. Well, I'm going to tell you, 1 out of 40 contracts that came through here were not contingent upon inspections. Now, I don't know, 1 out of every 4 are not contingent upon inspections. So we've seen a severe uptick in buyers being willing to forego the inspection process. Okay. I am not a fan at all, but when you're competing against 5 other buyers, I get it. I understand. And y'all know I'm good at building rapport. I've been a talker since I was born. So part of my rapport building with my new buyers now is, hi, I'm Ashley. I'm going to be your buyer's agent, and I'm going to give you what sounds like terrible advice. And it's advice I would not be giving you in any other market. So I know you don't know me yet, and I know you don't even trust me yet. And I'm here to tell you, I don't even agree with the advice I'm going to be giving you. But my job is to help you be competitive in this market. So I want to do that with your eyes wide open. So I'm going to tell you that you have the option to make this contract not contingent upon inspections. And because of that, I am very uncomfortable. And you, the buyer, should be very uncomfortable. We should not be buying houses that we have not had an inspection on, but that's not the market we're in. So I'm sorry that I'm having to essentially tell you all the things I would never do as hot tips for you to get a house right now. But again, I'm sure you've been watching the news. I'm sure you've been talking to folks. And I'm sure you understand that this market is bananas. And every time they appreciate that I'm being honest with them and that I'm uncomfortable with it. I need to let them know I'm not just some nutso realtor who's like, no inspections, no appraisal. Let's just, buy the house sight unseen. They need to know that I'm uncomfortable with that. It may still be what we have to do, but they at least know that I'm uncomfortable with it. Okay. I'm also going to say that a lot, and I'm going to email it a lot, because later, 5 years from now, when they go to sell the house and they call me up and I say, remember when we bought this house with no inspections? And remember when we overpaid? Well, now I'm not so sure you're going to be able to get your money back out of it. And yes, I'm hearing from you that now you've found out there's something wrong with the house. They're not going to remember that I told them we shouldn't buy it without an inspection. But if I can go back and pull an email, that's going to rest my nerves that I really did help them buy this house eyes wide open. Okay. So they've decided to buy a house without an inspection. 15B is now going to apply to us. And what that does is that gives us the right to a walkthrough. So 15A, when you've had inspections, allows you to have what's called a pre-settlement or pre-occupancy verification visit. Okay. That's to verify that all of the repairs that you guys negotiated have been completed. When you're not doing inspections, there obviously are no repairs. So 15B says that you are allowed a pre-settlement or pre-occupancy walkthrough. The purpose of the walkthrough is to verify that the home is in the same condition it was in as when that contract was written. So you are allowed to do that anytime 5 days prior to closing. And you're going to want to do it, there's no good time, okay? Because if you do it 5 days prior to closing, you've got time to respond to anything you may have discovered is wrong, right? Except also the sellers maybe aren't all the way out yet, and you can't do a very good walkthrough. You know, there are boxes everywhere, there's stuff everywhere. So if you do it 1 day prior to closing or the morning of the closing, great, you're getting to see the house completely empty, hopefully, ideally. However, if you find that the hot water heater has now died, there's not really any time to get that fixed prior to closing at 10 a.m. So there really are pros and cons to when to have that done. I can talk at length about the pros and cons on those two. It really is situational. If closing can be bumped 2 days to accommodate having a new hot water heater installed, then great, have your walkthrough the morning of closing. That's fine. But if these folks are in a moving truck coming here from Richmond for their closing at 10 a.m. and they're going to swing by the house on the way to the closing, they might be buying that house with a broken hot water heater, right? Because they may not be able to delay closing. And you may not be able to get something worked out that fast. So just keep that in mind, that it is situational depending on everybody's situation, okay? So you and the buyer are who should be attending the walkthrough. If they would like to bring others, that's fine. But often I will request it only be the buyer and their immediate family, okay? When moms and dads and cousins and best friends come along, you know, sometimes things get a little kooky. Like sometimes they say things like, oh, they didn't take the nails out of the wall and spackle those and touch up the paint. Oh, well, I wouldn't close if I were you. You tell them they've got to do that. No, that's not what we're doing. We are going to closing at 10 a.m. And now I am going to look like a bully in front of this friend who's never met me before. Okay. So I've just learned over the years, it's best to just be with my clients on walkthroughs. We're going to closing. Now, if there's a problem, I'm going to fix it. But cosmetic minor issues are not problems. I'm not going to have a friend blow it up into a problem. Okay. So please always try to be the guiding source for your client. They're stressed out. They've got a, $72,000 cashier's check in the car, getting ready to go to closing. So they're looking to you to help guide this last couple of hours smoothly and professionally. So if you'd like to be so bold, is just request that the walkthrough, and you can put it in your standard language in your email. You can have a draft email already ready to go that says, time for our walkthrough. This is an occasion for just you two and me to go to the walkthrough where we will verify that the home is in the same condition it was in as when we went under contract. If we find any discrepancies, I'll be handling those quickly and professionally. Please note that this really is just an opportunity for you two and me to visit the property. As soon as we finish closing and I've handed you the keys, feel free to bring anybody you wish to visit your new home. Okay? It's all about setting the expectations rather than trying to fix the issue later. So we go to the walkthrough and we go in and we find that the hot water heater is not working. Well, you're probably going to just call me because I'm going to have a couple of solutions at the ready. One of those is we're probably going to have to delay closing if that is that much of a deal breaker for your client. If there's a home warranty already in place, we may be making a call to the home warranty company. We, of course, will be calling the listing agent to say, hey, the hot water heater is not functioning. Now, you may find out that they turned off the gas 2 days ago. Okay. Now the contract calls in clause 15, the clause in it's like 15E, don't quote me on that, but it states that the seller is going to keep all utilities on until the time of closing. That's for the purpose of the walkthrough. However, things happen, you know, if you don't have a listing agent who has been very, very conscious of the steps and doling those out to their clients, or you've got a seller who just didn't listen. The seller was like, absolutely not, I'm turning that gas off. Then this happens sometimes. But at least we found out that the hot water heater probably just needs to have the gas turned back on. Now, I'm never going to say that to my buyer because I don't know. It could be dead. It could be a dead hot water heater. But I'm going to say, here's hoping it is just that the gas needs to be turned back on. Now, your buyers are going to have to make the decision as to whether that's worth pushing closing for or not. It's not a decision you and I can make for them. That is not a risk-free decision. So they've got to decide, is that risk worth the payoff of going ahead and continuing to closing today? So, and this will be my only side note to put your listing agent hat on, reiterate to your sellers, the utilities stay on until closing. They have to be able to conduct that walkthrough. Otherwise, it may result in us having closing pushed. And they can push closing because of that, because it's a breach of contract for the seller to turn the utilities off ahead of time. That's in clause 15. Okay. So we're there. We notice the hot water heater isn't working. Perhaps it's the gas. Perhaps it's not. We've made a decision as to whether we're going to go to closing or not. I've had lots of bizarre things. We've showed up to walk through and there are 2 gigantic ruts in the front yard because it had, you know, all the snow melt had melted off and the moving truck had just absolutely torn up the front yard. Well, I've had to craft an amendment right before closing where they agree to issue a $200 credit to the buyer if the lender will allow. I've had to write that they'll issue a $200 credit to a landscaping company to come in and reseed that section. Weird stuff happens. You're going to be writing odd amendments at the last minute because of walkthrough sometimes. And you can call me and I'll give you the language for that, or Jennifer can give you the language for that. We're happy to do that. This is just my moment again to say to you, everything in real estate is going to feel like an emergency until you've done it for a while. Okay. It likely is not an emergency. It's probably urgent, but it's probably not life or death. Okay. And I will tell you, I have seen it all. I have had the cousin decide to turn the water main on during the walkthrough in a foreclosure. And now leaks are popping up all over the house before we own the property. This kind of stuff happens. Another reason not to take your cousin with you to the walkthrough. Urgent matters are going to come up, and I promise you we'll get through them, and you can always call me. Once you have finished your walkthrough, one thing I want you to do is I always want you to take, if it was contingent upon inspections, the pre-settlement and pre-occupancy verification period, take that ROC, that removal of contingency form with you and verify that those repairs have been made. I know you probably have receipts because you're going to want to have gotten receipts, but take the repair request with you. Once I get back in that house, I may not remember the 10 things we asked the seller to fix. Okay. So I'm going to take that ROC with me, and we're going to just kind of walk our way through it and make sure all of those items were addressed. And if they weren't addressed, we're going to call the listing agent. Now, for our example today, it was not contingent upon inspections. So we're just verifying that everything in the home works. I'm going to turn on all 4 eyes on the stove, and I'm going to make sure they glow and heat up. I'm going to turn on the oven. I perhaps might run the dishwasher for a short cycle. I'm going to check that the heating works in the wintertime, and I'm going to check that the cooling works in the summertime. I'm not going to check alternatively. Do not run the heater in the summer. You're going to hurt the furnace, and do not run the air conditioning in the winter, or you're going to hurt the HVAC unit outside. Okay. Part of us living in a 4 seasons climate is we're going to have to, for a certain couple of months of the year, just on a whim, hope the other side of the heating and cooling system is working and functioning properly. We won't really know until the summer when we turn on the air conditioner, or the winter when we turn on the heater. Okay. Buying a house is not risk-free. Our job is to just minimize the risks as much as possible. Okay. There will always be the house that surprises our buyers later, no matter how much due diligence we do. Okay. All right, so we've gone through the house. We've made sure everything in the house is functioning properly. We've verified that there are some keys available. When I'm at the walkthrough, I'm going to take the key from the lockbox with me to closing to hand to my buyer when we are finished with settlement. The contract is very clear that possession takes place at settlement. So you may hand the key to your buyers at the closing table when they have slid their cashier's check across the table and they have finished signing all of the documents. That is when they are allowed to be provided the key. And what I explain to them at that closing table is, here is the key. Congratulations. You have possession of the home, but you will not have ownership of the home until it is recorded at the courthouse. Okay. Do not knock down any walls in the next day. And they laugh, but I'm being very clear with them. Do not make any modifications to this home until the deed is recorded at the courthouse. They have possession, but not ownership. Okay. Now, this is why I don't like Friday closings. Everybody and their brother wants a Friday closing because they want to take full advantage of the first 3 days of the home ownership to get moved in. Close on a Thursday. That way, if something comes up in the walkthrough, or something comes up and they can't get recorded at the courthouse, or the wire doesn't get there in time to record at the courthouse, you're not having your new buyers in that home for the entire weekend and they don't own it yet. Okay. So close on Thursday, close on Wednesday. We don't have to close on Friday. So what if they own the house for Thursday, they don't get to move anything in because of work schedules? Fine. They'll get to move in Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Also, wire scams happen. And if a wire scam happens on a Friday and the bank closes and you can't get a hold of the bank until Monday, your money is in another country. You will never get it back. So close on a Thursday. Okay. Just another, hot tip from me watching lots of things go wrong. So we have gone over everything in the house. Everything's working fine. There is a walk-through confirmation form. It is not a standard form by RVAR. If you go to Zip Forms, you can toggle through the libraries of forms. There's a library called Wainwright Forms. If you go there, there is a walk-through acceptance form. I do not want you to share that with the listing agent or the seller. Okay. That is for your and my protection. That is your buyer signing the form that they attended a walkthrough with you and everything checked out fine. You send it to us and you keep it for yourself. You do not share it with the listing agent or the seller, because I'm not going to go out of my way to protect that seller by providing them a form that says my buyer said everything looked great, and then a tree falls on the house 1 hour before closing, and they want to use that form I've made to indicate that everything was fine. We said we accepted it as is. Okay. So that is for my use and your use, and you are not going to give it to the other side of the transaction. And Jamie, that is found on Zip Forms. If you go to Zip Forms, and in the upper right-hand corner, when you go to Forms, it's going to default you into the RVAR library of forms. If you hit that drop-down toggle button, you can go to the Virginia Association of Realtors forms, and you can also go to the Wainwright forms. The Wainwright forms house things like a walkthrough acceptance report. And there is also a one-time showing agreement in case you're going to go show a for sale by owner and you'd like for them to agree to pay you commission. It's going to have an amendment in there for listing agreements. So it's going to have a form in there that'll allow you to do a price change or allow you to do an extension on a listing period. So we've just got some Wainwright specific forms in there. They're all used in-house. They are not forms that you are providing the other side of the transaction. Okay. Okay. So I'd like to open it up to questions about the walkthrough process and questions about the walkthrough in general. Anybody have any questions? Are they required? No. Your buyer does not have to do a walkthrough. Your buyer has the right to do a walkthrough. Would I recommend it? Absolutely. Okay. Another big one that comes up is the cleanliness of the house. Well, that's not going to be a big deal to my buyers because I will have already said to them, hey guys, when we go to the walkthrough, I'm just going to tell you to know that the seller is required to leave the home in broom clean condition. It will not be clean enough for you. You need to go ahead and assume that you're going to spend a few hours cleaning your new home to get it to the level of cleanliness that you would like. Okay. Now, I think a lovely sentiment that sometimes sellers will do is they'll hire a professional cleaner to come through the day of closing. I think that's lovely. What a wonderful, wonderful way to be a nice human. That's not possible for a lot of people. And it is my experience that most sellers grossly underestimate the amount of time it's going to take for them to move. So they are literally running out the door with coat hangers and, a dog and a soccer ball, and they have not had time to sweep through the house because that took way longer than they had thought it was going to be. Listen, that would be me, honestly. So if you find, put your seller hat back on again, your listing agent hat back on again, assess your seller. Hey, seller, 2 days to closing. Just wanted to make sure you were busy packing. Do you think there's going to be any time crunch with getting everything loaded into the truck? Have you gotten a truck lined up? I get really irritated with listing agents who have had absolutely zero conversations with their sellers about hiring moving trucks or packing or when they should start packing. Okay. You have to assume they've never moved before and that they don't know they need to book a moving truck weeks in advance. Okay. These should be things they should be thinking about more than 2 days prior to closing. It is not a valid excuse to not come to closing that, oh, well, there's not a moving truck available. It happens, but it's going to irritate everybody. Okay. So who has questions or anything to add? Please unmute yourself, throw up a hand, whatever you wish.
It's me.
Hey, Jennifer.
On my car, so I hope you can hear me.
Yes.
So just, this market, we're not making contracts contingent on these home inspections. So can you just reiterate the fact that, the walkthrough is not an inspection period?
Oh, yeah.
It's literally to look to make sure the house is in the same condition that it was when we saw it the first time.
That's
because
point.
I have heard that. I'm like, well, we'll just wait till the walkthrough. Well, that's not necessarily how that works, right?
So 15B, and that's an excellent question. 15B states that everything will be in working order. So I will say that if you go to walkthrough and you find that the hot water heater is dead, you do have a right to ask for that to be made functional. Okay. Now, if it was not functioning when you visited the home, they're going to argue with you that you were buying the house as is and the hot water heater didn't work back when they put it on the market, right? So 15B does address, though, that the seller is warranting that the property will have everything in working order, but it burdens the seller back to clause 17 for the repair remediation limit, which is $0. So the seller has $0 worth of obligation to correct anything. However, it would give your buyer a termination right if the seller said, we're not going to fix that hot water heater. Okay. But most of the time, if you're buying a house in as is condition, you understand that things may or may not be working. You're buying that house as is. And if you have a buyer who is purchasing a home that way, I want you to be very, very candid with them as to what their expectations should be. A first-time home buyer should probably not be buying an as-is home. Thank you, Jennifer.
You're welcome. And then one other situation that I had, and we were the listing side, when the buyer came through the house and they had moved, my clients had a huge desk and their big old washer and dryer. and she had painted the whole house and it looked absolutely lovely. But when they moved, they did not paint behind the big desk and they did not paint behind the washer and dryer. So the buyer's like, I thought all this was painted. Now I'm going to have to repaint because we're not going to match these colors. Yep. What's up with that? So
that is cosmetic.
Yes.
What a real pain. But you're absolutely right. That is not what you want to discover at walkthrough. The same reason why they don't have to take the nails out of the wall and spackle and touch up the paint. That is all cosmetic. And our contract does not even entertain cosmetic issues. So same thing. And you're absolutely right. Same thing. We have people pull up a rug, move, and then you find out that the floor in that rectangle pattern, the hardwood floors are darker there because of having had the rug down. So you're going to discover cosmetic issues with the home when you're moving in. And so wouldn't that be a lovely item to put in your draft email to your buyers when you're talking about it's time to go to walkthrough? I'm positive we're going to see some cosmetic issues that we were not aware of. I want you to prepare yourself for that. It may require some painting. It may require you to pay some decor attention to the home sooner rather than later. Absolutely. And then I had one other thing pop into my head there, but Carla, did you have something to add? I don't want to put you on the spot, but I saw you unmuting.
No, I'm just actually going to ask a different question.
Sure.
So on the, what is it called? On the, when we do the removal of contingencies for repair issues, you know, there's that time frame that you add in there, the time frame with which we're going to send the list of repairs and the response time frame.
Yes.
So I'm waiting on one and I'm waiting on one and I'm waiting on one to come back to me with a response. And I haven't gotten it yet. I think we're past the number of days. What does that mean?
So
does that mean they have to do my list or not?
No, I believe it says that they have to credit you the repair remediation limit.
No.
I will have to double check on the inspection addendum, just because this is where it's not that I don't know the forms. It's just I've been in business through so many iterations of the form that sometimes I'll be remembering like the 2018 version in my head. So I've got to look at it with my eyeballs, but I will look and see. I'm fairly certain that if the seller response time expires and there has been no response from the seller, that by default, they're issuing a credit of the repair remediation amount. Now they may argue that, Carla, because now they're probably going to realize, oh, it was only $300 worth of repairs and the repair remediation limit is $1,000, but that ship may have sailed. I'll check for you. All right. Anybody have anything else? Questions about the walkthrough? I know you thought, how can she talk for 40 minutes straight on walkthrough? But y'all know me better than that. Okay, so then what I want to just move on to is the Get Business Quick idea. So the Get Business Quick idea today is t-shirts. There are some hilarious and engaging t-shirts out there for real estate agents, you know, real estate and tacos, you know, t-shirts that are my mom is my realtor, you know, and you're putting those on toddlers, you know, or my grandma is my realtor. There are a million real estate t-shirts. So when you're just cruising the farmer's market on a Saturday morning, or you're going to a baseball game, or you're going to your kid's soccer practice, there's no reason why you can't throw on a real estate t-shirt to kind of bring the conversation to real estate, right? Please have business cards in your back pocket. All right. Learn from me. I never have a business card on me. It's been 19 years. You would think they would just be like attached to my body all the time now. The number of times I've had to say, oh, I don't have a business card, is terrible, terrible. So like your parents have told you, do as I say, not as I do. Fortunately now in the world of cell phones, I'm able to say, let me just text you my contact info. Have your business cards on you, please, and wear your fun real estate t-shirt so that people comment on it or people crack up, you know, do your gigantic face standing with your yard sign, you know, whatever you want to do that is whimsical and will get people reminded that you are in real estate. Okay. If you go on Etsy, there are lots of fun options. There are face masks that have real estate slogans on them, you know, all sorts of stuff. So
can I plug something?
Of
Plug
course.
somebody?
Please.
Okay. Well, my niece makes t-shirts,
Mhm.
and I had her make me one because I saw one of our agents wearing a t-shirt that was really cool. And so I had, her name's Kelsey. She has a company, and she started out on Etsy, but now she's got her own company, Caden and Company. And she made me a shirt that says "Keeping It Real Estate." And it's got a little house on it and a little key, and I've wore it out, and it's gotten me so much it's this conversation starter. I even posted myself in it and put it on my Facebook page and had a lot of interest. So the shirt does work, because it's just sort of, someone says, "Oh, I didn't know you were a real estate agent." "Oh, are you a real estate agent?" And even friends that I've known, you know, acquaintances I've known, what they didn't realize it. And when I wear the shirt out, you know, I'm not just sitting there going, here's my card, here's my card, here's my card. You're just wearing it, and it gets the conversation started. And then you say, "Oh, here's my card." So it works really, really well. If anybody's interested in her information, I'd be happy to give it to you. Not to
In the chat window, Donna.
You already did it?
Yep.
All right, thank you. She will be very happy, and she can custom make it for however you'd like it. So, you know, it would help her. She's a small business owner, so it would help her too, and help your business. And there you go. So that's my 2 cents worth.
That's right. And her t-shirts are amazing. Like,
Amazing.
I bought tons for the kids, several for myself.
Yeah.
She does an excellent job.
My 2 cents are, hold on, my 2
Please.
cents right there. Don't
Please.
forget Realtor hats at RVAR. They're so stinking cute, and I love it, and I wear it all the time.
I do too. I love them.
Absolutely.
And they're very affordable.
And right now, RVAR has a special hat for the centennial, because it's 100 years for RVAR this year. They have a baseball cap right now that has our 100-year logo on it. So it will only be for sale this year, and they're only doing it as an Rpac donation. So if you do, I think it's maybe a $30 Rpac donation, which is the Realtor Political Action Committee, that is non-partisan. It is their only goal as lobbyists are to lobby for the real estate industry. They are the ones on Capitol Hill making sure property taxes stay reasonable. They're the ones on on Capitol Hill making sure that legislation that might have something harmful to our industry does not go through. So Rpac, I contribute every year in a large way because I'm a broker. This is my business. This is what I do for a living. I want to make sure my industry survives and thrives. So making an Rpac donation is something I do. Now, the fact that you get a cute hat for it this year is just an extra bonus. And they worked very hard on that 100-year logo. It is really sharp looking. So consider that as well. Yeah. All right. Anybody have any other questions? Any new topics?